Hi everyone, this is Ting from Ting Yuan Art and Creating a Profitable Art Business Facebook group. Now today I am doing a Q&A, and this question is from Lauren Till and Mary Leona. I hope I'm pronouncing both your names properly. And the question is how to create or open an art gallery. Great question. Now I have had a gallery since 2007, and I closed it during COVID time because it was COVID time, and I was also ready for a break. During the time that I had a gallery, it was very lucrative for art business, and it was also very interesting because I got to learn a lot of things. And having an art business, especially art gallery, you'll find that because your whole hope and your way of making money is really depending on your art marketing skills. So when you have an art gallery, you actually have no excuse not to learn your art marketing fast and effectively so that you can make a living, right? And hi Judith, nice to see you. And so I'm gonna tell you a little bit about opening a gallery. Now before you open a gallery, of course you have to register your business with the government. And after I'm finished with this post, I am going to link the Canadian government and the US government on how to basically register your business with them. And what is good, a sole proprietorship or incorporated. I started with sole proprietorship because it's much easier to start out that way. It's less complicated for your bookkeeping. The other thing that you want to do when you want to start an art gallery business is that you got to find a good bookkeeper or do it yourself, or have a very good charter accountant to finish your year end, and that would really help. Bettina Reiser, one of our members, mentioned that she uses freshbooks.com, and I will link it on top as well when I'm done with this live. And she said it's fantastic. I took a look at it, and it looks really good because you can actually write down your expenses and your revenue, and everything seems to be easy to use, user friendly. Okay. And number 3 is having a good PLU system, a system that can track down your sales, and also a good cash register system as well. And also a banking institution where you can collect money via credit cards, debit cards, and all of that. Okay. And now I'm going to start off with opening a gallery and what you should do. There are 4 factors to opening a gallery before you open a gallery. First of all, number 1 is location. Location is very important. Location, and then number 2 is the traffic. Number 3 is the overhead cost of opening a gallery. Number 4 is sufficient setup funds. Now, number 1, the location. It has to be ideal, and you have to have enough local support. So always pick, let's say if you're living in the city, you want to have your shop in a smaller community, but have at least, I would say 20,000 people surrounding area to work with, at least that many, and choose a place that is also have lots of tourism. Like if you're in a place that, let's say if you're in a city and a certain district attracts a lot of tourists, that is a really good thing to have because hi everyone, hi Kat, nice to see you. And so you want to have high traffic area as well. So your location has to have local support as well as visitor support so that you always have an influx of different clienteles coming through, including your local support. Now traffic, you want to have a place that is full of traffic, but at the same time full of traffic, you have to see not all busy traffic means good traffic. Okay, just like not all, when you attract customers to your shop, they're not always the ideal targeted customers, right? So you have to be careful on the location. When you look at the location for your gallery, you have to make sure the traffic that you see is your ideal customer or your target audience. Because sometimes in regards to traffic, I was once in a town that I thought, okay, this is fantastic. This got good traffic, good foot traffic. It's always busy, and I was so disappointed when I opened it because I realized the foot traffic has nothing to do with shopping. The foot traffic has all to do with the institutional thing that they're doing. You know, they're always in a hurry because they're going to banks and they're going to, you know, I was on a street that was a lot of banking institutions in there. So watch out for traffic. You have to be more alert. And sometimes you make the mistakes after you open the gallery, right? And that is, you know, heart-wrenching because you just spend so much money opening a gallery and then find out later that you have made a mistake. And I have done that before. You know, of course, as an entrepreneur, you always find a solution to solve your problem. You don't, you know, just cower down and say, oh my goodness, this is wrong and I'm just going to, you know, die here, right? You always have to try to find a solution and say, okay, this is not working right, but what can I do to make it work, okay? You have to always believe in yourself and trust that whatever abilities you have, you're going to make it work. So remember, traffic is not always the right traffic. So make sure you really do your research. Even no matter how many research you do, sometimes you're still surprised, like I was. Also overhead cost. So when you have a location, it can be expensive. So you always have to make sure your overhead cost is not too much because you want your overhead cost to be low and your revenue to be high. But if you end up seeing that there's a lot of, if it's too expensive, don't go in there because that is a mistake you're making right away because you're going to put so much stress onto yourself that you are actually going to stop creating. Not only you're going to stop creating, but you're going to have so much stress that you don't enjoy your business anymore because you're always in a panic mode. You're always nervous. So whatever you do, do not find a place that's so expensive that, you know, that is just not going to help you to make money. It's all about the overhead cost because you have to think about power, you have to think about the rent, you have to think about insurance, and all of those things like insurance, and then of course the power, hydro, and then you have your rent, and your rent is always there. Like those are overhead costs that are fixed. So overhead costs, for example, for me, my gallery has always cost me $2,000 in rent. Okay, and then the rest is your credit card fees, and also, like I said, power and hydro, and that fluctuates because it depends on winter or summer. And so you always have to think your fixed overhead cost to be at least $3,000 to $4,000. So you have to jack up your revenue in order to make sure you pay your rent and overhead costs and still make profit. And that's why having a gallery is a stressful thing to do, but at the same time, it's a fantastic thing to do because it does make you a lot of money, and also it makes you be able to rely on your ability as an artist to make a business out of it. And that is a wonderful feeling because if you're able to do that, it doesn't matter how old you are. You can be in your 70s, you can be in your 80s, you can still make money as long as you want to. All right. Number 4 is the making sure you have sufficient savings saved up for your basically the opening of the business, the setup. And your setup, you would need a lot of furnitures. You would need, of course, to register with your business and all of that. That costs money. Register with the town that you're in. That costs money as well. So your overhead cost and your money saved up for opening your business has to be high. Okay, and I would say if you start off with, you know, $5,000, that is the minimum you should. And I would feel more comfortable if you start off with $10,000 because you will be very surprised the little expenses that come out that you never thought of. And in regards to work, how many artwork do you need before you start? I would suggest you start off with at least 25 to 30 original paintings. And now when you start off with 25 to 30 paintings, make sure you also offer prints, cards, and items that are lower end cost so that you have a variety of prices to offer to your customers. Because not all customers are going to be able to afford an original. But customers are able to afford a card. If they love your work, they are able to afford a magnet or print, okay? The other thing about prints and originals, when I first started my first gallery, it was a 400 square footage gallery, and I have a little studio in the back, which is about 400 square footage as well, for my basically my framing and all my prints. My printing isn't in the same room, so it was quite tight, but you know, it was a very good gallery because it was well run, and also it was in a very artsy little town, so I really enjoyed it. That was my first gallery. And so what I did was I did 27 paintings the first year, the originals, and I picked 20 out of the 27 that are, in my eyes, are winners, and I made them into prints. I went with a local printer first because I didn't have my own printing. I didn't do my own printing at that time. So I went with a local printer, and then I did cards and print. I did 20 cards and 20 prints. Okay, that's how I started. And the furnitures I bought are like this shelving units here is one of them. There's other shelving units that I purchased them. They were inexpensive. They were actually regular shelving units that I made them into print shelving unit. And by doing so, I basically painted them. My husband painted them, and I painted some as well. And we made them into very attractive system that will work for our prints. And then we also had a nice front desk. We had cash registers, a good PLU system, and then we farm up our printing. So then we also bought cart racks, and now I'm not sure if this will work, but I'll try. Okay, see that thing over there? That's my cart rack, okay? So I actually have, my first one is only a cart rack for 20 carts, and then I ended up with 3 cart racks, and they end up being 2 48 cart racks and 1 20 cart rack. So I ended up with a lot of carts. I never really did counted how many cards I have, but it was a lot because of the growth after, you know, 13, 14 years of the gallery. And so I started with that, and always make sure that, you know, those, in regards to printing, you can actually find really good local printers. So make sure you have a good relationship with your local printer, okay? When you get them printed, make sure you ask for a contact sheet first. When you have a contact sheet, check your original painting with your contact sheet that's been printed by your printer, and make sure the color correlates perfectly and the color is accurate. If it's not accurate, ask for another contact sheet. Your contact sheet shouldn't cost you any money, okay? It should be something basically to show proof that this printer you can work with, and he knows exactly how to make your art stand out and make your art and color perfectly corrected so that it represents your art perfectly, okay? So, and at this time when I first started with my printer, I remember the cost was low. It was $7 Canadian per print. And then now I've been checking on some printers online. I believe they're going up to about $10, but that was years ago, right? So now it's about $10 a piece. And sometimes they have minimum order that you need to do. Hence the reason why, as I grew in my business, in 2 years' time, I purchased my own printers, and I ended up with 2 printers. And because they're always churning out prints consistently, we needed 2 printers to keep up with the workload. And that became very lucrative for us, because the fact that when you print your own is a whole less expensive, because you don't have a quantity measurement that you need to order. And also the fact that you only order the things that you really, you know, you only print out the things that you really need right away, so that your inventory cost is not so high sitting in the back room doing nothing, right? So that's one thing that you have to look at, your inventory cost and how much you need, how much backup you need. So I would suggest that when you open a gallery, yes, it is a lot of cost involved. So first work with your local printer, and after you work with your local printer, the first thing that you want to invest in is actually a printer, okay? Epson 2880 or 3880. Again, I will put the link up there, and so that you know exactly what kind of printers I'm talking about. And you can also buy archival paper, archival ink, and that gives you the best quality prints possible, and those are called giclée. So you can have a really good quality print, and these prints will last you 100 years behind glass. Okay, back to the gallery. So this is how I started with the 27 paintings, 20 cards, 20 prints, okay, and I grew from there. And I'll talk about the advantage of having a gallery. Now, gallery is, what I love about having a gallery is that I didn't have to do shows anymore. I was doing shows for so many years before, I would say, well, at least 7 years, or maybe a little less, of doing shows before I decided not to do that at all. When I opened my first small gallery, I was still doing some shows, but not as involved as I was beforehand. The other thing I love about having an art gallery is that you get to learn about art marketing one-on-one with your customers, because you see them, you talk to them, you find out things and ask more questions. I love that. Asking questions to my customers really helped me to learn how to become a better art marketer. Having conversations with the customers build relationship, and that is extremely important. There's nothing better than selling your art when you actually seeing your customers one-on-one. Because when you see your customers one-on-one, they feel your energy, they see what you're talking about. You can have a two-way conversation with them. And you can ask them questions, you can suggest things. And art marketing became so important, and I learned so quickly because the fact that I have an art gallery. And the one-on-one connection is, you can't compare that to anything else. You can't compare that to online art marketing as well. It's completely different. If you don't want to have a gallery, I suggest you got to do shows. And even if you dislike doing shows, do it for a few years, okay? Learn as much as you can. So from your customers, and ask as many questions as you can. Make it as if it's your school, it's a part of schooling. And it's really going to help you in your art marketing, and you will make a business out of it. So I didn't like traveling, so that was great. And it gave me a steady stream of income. It provided me a good lifestyle. I was able to have a good surge of extra income coming in during tourist season and also during Christmas season. And of course, there's months that you're going to see that is slower. And with the pandemic that's going on right now, I bet there's a lot of towns and cities that have lots of empty spots. So it could be the best time for you to take advantage of a pop-up shop. Because at this time, I think the landlord might be able to negotiate with you, because they know that, if they don't negotiate with you, your space is going to sit there empty. So that's a suggestion. You might want to do a pop-up shop. And if you're too late for summer, think of it for Christmas. And the other thing about having the advantage of having a gallery is that you can try out your art products with your customers. So for instance, after we did the prints and cards, we purchased a magnet machine. And we started doing magnets, and we tested that, and it was popular, so that was no problem. And it was also a lower ticket item. It was $8, so that was lucrative. And you'll be quite surprised. People are actually that can't afford an original. They either buy a print, or sometimes I would have people buying like 40 cards and magnets to go with it. And it actually does add up, even if a card is only $5 and a magnet's $8. But imagine if somebody pick up 40 cards and magnets to match, right? Then, it adds up, and you will make a good revenue from that as well. And you will also sell a lot of art, because, your art is all over. Therefore, your emphasis is really on your style, your concept, and because you're there, standing there, with the people, they can actually get to know you, and there's that like and trust factor as well, and that's when people purchase from you because they trust you. It also shows authority, and it opens up a lot of opportunities, because after we opened the art gallery, my art was chosen for a few posters, as well as some sales brochures and art shows brochures as well, and lots of write-ups from journalists. So it does give you authority, and it also gives you a lot of attention. And you're always learning about your art marketing. There's no way that, if you're always in the shop, you have to make sure your time is well utilized. You can also grow your subscriber list very quickly because you're always promoting it, right? You have either a box there or you're talking to somebody. A box, what I meant is you can have a box that says, sign up for my newsletters, and, and there's would be a free print draw every quarterly and things like that. So make sure the time that you utilize it properly when you're in your gallery. Always collect customers' emails, okay? Same as when you're doing shows, always make sure you're doing that actively. Now, I'll talk about my disadvantage of what having a gallery is about. The disadvantage for me is long hours. It was very long hours because in the summer especially I was working a lot, because that was the time, like for me, I think, artists are kind of like farmers, right? We have a season that we're painting, we're creating, and a season that we sell. So for me, summer was my harvesting time, so I take full advantage of it. I work many hours, and I would actually work from 10 to about 9 o'clock, and having one day off. And that was, after a while, I got really exhausted. The stress level is high because if you can't sell your art, you can't make a living. So then you're always, always basically, you're always on, right? You're always on. You're always making sure whoever comes in, you basically analyze the person that comes in, and you think about what I can do in order to talk to this person, and what does this person would like from me. So it's your mind is always thinking, it's always churning. And finding help is very challenging. I have had help before, and it was very difficult because I had long training, and then in the end it was too challenging for them. They decided they find it too stressful, so they didn't want to continue. So after a while, it was just my husband and I. It just became very difficult to find help. And I do believe next time, if I were to open another gallery, I would try harder and finding the right people with the right culture to come to my tribe, to be part of my tribe, because it's really hard to do it yourself. So if you could find an artist that could help you, that is just as interested in doing art business, then that's the best thing to do. And the other thing that I didn't like about having a gallery is that I was spending less time creating. So I ended up spending a lot of time art marketing and less time creating. And of course I was missing that. Also having to be basically always juggling two things at once. It can be difficult. And the other thing I wanted to guys talk about too is when you have a gallery, and if let's say your space is larger and you can't fill up the space, you can always have other artists bring in their work and collect 35 to 45% commission would help you out as well. But have a good system so that you can track them down, as well as have a good system to make sure that you know where their revenue goes, so that when some items sold, you know exactly what happened, so that you're not forgetting to write a paycheck for them, or that they come back to you and say, hey, I think I sold this, and you don't have a good record, so you can't tell if you sold it or not. So always have a very good record to keep your inventory, as well as a good contract that protects you and protects the artists that you carry as well. Okay, so these are my advantages, disadvantages, and my ideas on how what you should do, and also my experience on having a gallery for that many years. I hope it was helpful for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to write on the comment below, and I will link all the things that I mentioned in regards to the registering your business, and if a proprietorship or incorporation is better for you. And also, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but Bettina Reiser, one of our members, actually mentioned oh yes, I did mention it. Freshbooks.com is very good, so I'll mention that on the link as well. And that's it for now, and thank you so much for joining me. It's very nice to see few of you had the time to join me live, and I shall see you again. Like I said, have any questions, please feel free to write them down, or even private message me. I'll be happy to answer those questions for you. Okay, thank you. Have a wonderful weekend, guys.